Hi, my name is Zach. I'm a Christian Druid, and recently I've been asked the question how it is that I combine Christianity and paganism when they are two contradictory belief systems. And I think that's a very good question, so I wanted to go ahead and answer it. Now, I have made a video in the past talking about what it is I believe. It's actually the first video I made when I started making this stuff about Christo-paganism. But that video is a little bit out of date because some of my beliefs have changed and evolved. So yeah, I figured I'd just make a new video. But before I get into what specifically it is I believe, I just wanted to talk real quick about how it is that I can justify having the belief system that I do. So there are a couple of realizations that I've come to in my spiritual journey, right? The first one being nobody knows jack shit. Nobody knows anything about the divine or the afterlife or the spiritual realm, anything like that. No one actually knows anything. The best that we have are guesses and theories, which are based on anecdotal evidence. That's the best that we have. So nobody actually knows anything about any of this stuff. Secondly, religion is supposed to be a tool to help us through hard times, right? It is something that is supposed to help you live a better life. It's supposed to help you with your mental health, right? This is what religion is supposed to be, and it can be a very useful tool. And while I realize it's not a tool for everybody to use, just as certain tools I have in my workshop are not tools that everyone will use, it is a tool in my arsenal. Or rather, spirituality is a tool in my arsenal. It's what I follow isn't really a religion per se, but regardless. So with that being said, with those two different things, right? With nobody actually knowing what is out there, what the divine is, nothing like that, and religion's supposed to be something to help me, that is how I can justify mixing the beliefs together, because I am crafting my own personal spirituality to help me live a better life and to help me have better mental health. That is what I'm doing. So that is how I justify it. Now let's get into what it is I actually believe. So first, let's talk about what it is I believe about divinity. So in my original video where I talked about this, I said that I worshipped Yahweh and Asherah, and that I believed that other gods existed, but I didn't know which ones were real and which ones were man-made. Well, my belief on that now is that all gods are real, but all gods are also man-made. Now, I know that's probably going to confuse some people. So what I mean by that is that the divine is such a is so complex, right? A being who is capable of creating us, the planet, the entire cosmos, is going to be beyond understanding. So a being that's so complex, what we do is we end up personifying the divine and creating various different characters that are very much like us in order to try and understand it. And with such a complex being or beings, any personification that we put onto it is going to encompass some aspects of that being. So that is what I mean by all gods are man-made, because all gods really are just characters that we have created. But all gods are real because they are encompassing aspects that the divine would have. So, with that being said, how does that look for me? So, it still looks very similar to how it did. The way I personify the divine is the Heavenly Father and the Holy Mother. So, still very much like the Yahweh and Asherah kind of thing. It's still very much looked at through a Christian lens. But yeah, that is how I view gods, and I do pray to them and whatnot, and yeah, like I have the understanding of I'm probably wrong about what the divine is like, but it is having them personified in this way helps me in my life right now. And that is really what matters. What I'm living right now. So yeah, that's what I believe about the divine. The afterlife, right? Let's talk about the afterlife. So obviously nobody knows anything about it, but I have adopted beliefs from paganism, which is that there is this thing called the other world, where you go and it is essentially a holding tank for you until you reincarnate later on down the line. And so in this way, you'd be able to like communicate with past ancestors and obtain their wisdom and things like that. But after you've lived in the spiritual realm for a little while, you would then reincarnate. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I'm kind of in between beliefs right now as to whether the cycle simply keeps continuing on, as would be the case in paganism, or if you eventually get it. You just fully understand the message of Christ, and then you would go to be in heaven with God for eternity. I'm kind of in between that right now. That's kind of where I'm at with the afterlife. There's a whole bunch of stuff with the other world that I still need to study and stuff like that, and learning stuff. But yeah, so that's where I am with that. Holy texts. Let's talk about holy texts. So obviously, being a Christian, I have the Bible, and I view the Bible as mythology, as is the case. I'm doing a whole series about that. I view it as mythology. I think there is some historical basis in things, but it's mostly just mythology. It's mostly just stories, I think, which isn't a bad thing, because it's just meant to like help teach you lessons and stuff, and it tells you about the way that people thought back then. So yeah, that's about as much on the Christian side. On the pagan side or Druid side, there aren't really any holy texts per se. I do have some books. Let me hold on a second. So I have more books than this, but these are the main ones, really. So these are the main ones that have really influenced me as far as paganism stuff goes. So I've got this one, 366 Celt. This A Year and a Day of Celtic Wisdom and Lore. It's just like one page, snippet stuff. It's got one for every day of the year, including a day for the leap year. So yeah, it's just introduces you to some concepts and stuff like that. It's a very beginner type of thing, and just a nice little book to read. It's like you don't want to do much reading. It's like, okay, you only have a page. Next one is Celtic Mysticism. This one I picked up at Barnes & Noble. I just happened to see it, and I was wanting to like get more into, my Celtic heritage and stuff like that. So I picked this up. So yeah, it's a personal guide to Celtic and Druid tradition. This is another like beginner type book. It like really introduced me. This is the book that introduced me to the idea of Druidism or Druidry. So that this was a jumping off point. Gave me a lot of stuff to research and look into. So yeah, very good book for that. And then I have this book, the Book of Hedge Druidry. This is a guide for solitary practitioners, which is what I am, because there are no Druid stuff around here where I live. So yeah, this is just kind of helped me to put some structure to my faith and whatnot. And obviously I'm taking, different stuff in here for a grain of salt. Not everything is going to apply, because this is written from a very, pagan lens. And I still have, my Christianity involved in stuff. So yeah. So yeah, those are like the top three, Druid books for me. I don't consider them holy, but they are very informative and full of information. One thing I completely forgot to mention when I was talking about deity was about Jesus. Right. because it is common belief in Christianity that Jesus was the Son of God, that he was divine, that he was God incarnate. I don't believe that. I believe that Jesus was a good teacher. I believe that Jesus was definitely someone who had authority on earth from the divine to do things, and possibly performed miracles. I don't know whether that has any historical basis or not. It's probably more just stories and stuff. But I believe they're a good teacher. I consider myself a follower of Jesus because I think that the way he teaches you to live is, pretty good. Obviously, they're not. I don't necessarily follow absolutely everything. If there's some things that just I don't feel apply, but yeah, like that is how I still keep the Christian label, because Christian means follower of Christ. So I am a follower of Jesus Christ in that sense. So sorry that I forgot to mention that. Right. So what else I believe? Let's talk about spiritual beings. So obviously in Christianity, you've got things like angels, cherubim, seraphim, all that kind of stuff. And in paganism, you'll have like fairies and just spirits of just various spirits and things like that. I did mention that I believe, that you can talk to the ancestors and things like that. I am an animist. I believe that everything has a soul. So especially crafted things. So all of my instruments here, I believe, have a soul or a spiritual energy. This house that I live in, I believe, has a spiritual energy. All plants, animals, I believe everything has some sort of spiritual energy. And I think that the more something is used and loved, that the stronger that spirit grows, at least for inanimate objects. And then, everything that lives, I believe has a soul or a spiritual energy of some sort, just by nature. So there's that. So I believe that there are, I don't know. I that's one of the things, I think that there are like so many different types of like life forms on this planet, more than we will ever know about. And I think that the spiritual realm is got to be very similar. So many different types of spiritual beings that we just don't know about. We, then be as wide and as varied, if not more so than our own, physical world. So, in a sense, yes, I guess I could believe in angels and fairies and stuff. That's a point I'm very much more sort of agnostic on, I guess. It's like I believe that there is stuff out there. I don't know, I believe it's kind of a mystery, I guess. So yeah, I don't really have any super strong beliefs either way. I believe that they exist. I just don't know much about it or much of anything I really believe. So yeah, there's that. I think that covers most of the stuff of like what I believe, really. Let me talk about practices, I guess. So I do try to pray. I don't do it every day. I go through periods where sometimes I pray a lot more, and sometimes I don't. Right now, I'm kind of going through a period where I'm not really praying a whole awful lot. Like when I've been doing my Bible reading, Bible study, I have been praying before that, just for better wisdom and understanding while reading the text. But I haven't like sat down and done like proper prayer and stuff like that. But I do have an altar that I've built, and I have a candle on it. I have a little bowl for offerings. Most common day, most days I just put some water in there. But on special occasions like holidays or whatnot, I'll put some sort of alcohol in there. And it's just a gesture to the divine, and honestly any spirits that might be in the house. Just welcoming them and just showing gratitude. One way that in my prayer life, I'll do divination, and I use what are called prayer tiles. I started out using tarot cards, and then I moved to runes, and then I didn't feel comfortable using runes because there's such historical significance with them and everything, and I just am not part of that culture. So I didn't feel right using them, so I created my own symbols, and they function pretty much the same way as runes. But yeah, I'll use them in my prayer to, actually get answers back a lot more quickly. And whether it's actually working or whether I'm just making connections in my brain via symbols to gain knowledge that I already had, essentially, or make me think about things in a different way, I don't really care. It works for me. So yeah, that is something that I do. Other things I do, I like to obviously get outside into nature. I have one place in particular I like to go, and I've kind of developed a relationship with a particular nature spirit, and I will make offerings to that spirit. Yeah, I part of my spiritual practice is obviously the instruments. I like to write and play music. I've been kind of slacking on that lately. I have ADHD and I have lots of different hobbies, so I'm bouncing back and forth between lots of things. But yeah, that is part of my spiritual practice. I have a very special notebook. It's a leather-bound notebook that whenever I write a song that is particularly meaningful, as far as like my spiritual stuff goes, I will write that down in the book. Yeah, to have just my collection of songs that are important to me. So yeah, I hope that this was insightful and informative and helped you to better understand my spirituality. I don't think I've covered absolutely everything, but this entire video has been just off the cuff and not scripted, just because I just happened to have some time to sit down and make a video. So yeah, anyway, I hope that you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you whenever it is I get to making another video.